Recording in progress.
Hi everybody, and welcome back to another episode of our Mystical Wellness podcast. So I am Julia Anchorhaven, and today I have a really special guest, and I'm very excited to welcome the legendary Miles Johnston, founder of the Bases project and the upcoming Bases Full Disclosure International Conference here in the UK in December 2025. He's a true pioneer in alternative media. Miles has spent decades documenting the testimonies of whistleblowers, experiences and researchers on everything from non-human intelligences to deep black programs and Milab operations. Through his Bases TV platform, YouTube and Rumble channels, and his vast archive of groundbreaking interviews, Miles continues to shine a light on the strange, the hidden, and the unexplainable. So I'm really excited, Miles. Thank you for joining me. How are you?
Well, welcome from my Bases 2025 promo studio. And this
Love
is
it.
just to show that I was actually in Tampa. You can't see that, can you?
I was watching on the live stream. I had a live stream pass.
You can actually see something in the live stream. So I bought that. Yeah. In fact, I think I was awarded that. And it's got Brian Sings or Sungs B on it. We've got to show the logo. Got to promote these things. There's a camera.
Yeah, so Brian and Ida and their team did an amazing job at the Full Disclosure Now conference in July 2025.
I'm going to put this.
Do you want to start talking about the conference, or do you want to just tell me a bit about what you do? What you've been up to?
Well, for those of you watching at home, the blue T-shirt is beside the red. That's a bad joke about the BBC commentator. Once commentating billiards, and the phrase was, for those watching in black and white, the green ball is beside the red ball. But because you're watching it black and white, you can't. Anyway.
Okay, I did get that. I don't have a sense of humour like you do, so don't be annoyed if I don't laugh at one of your jokes.
Well, I've apparently got
really literal. Yeah.
I've apparently got a dry sense of humour.
Oh yes, you have. Yes.
So,
but so do I.
Sometimes we sort of glide the dry with the sarcasm, and then you get really confused.
Yeah.
Well, it's really good to have somebody like yourself in Britain, in these islands, because that's what the Bases conference is about, to try and bring people who've had exceptional experiences like yourself to meet these guys from the States. And Brian and Ida have produced two of these brilliant Full Disclosure Now conferences. And to be able to get 4 and I think 5 people who've been on the sort of stuff that they've been doing. We've got Drago, we've got Colonel Randy Kramer, we've got Brad Olson, and via Zoom we've got Penny Bradley. And Penny Bradley has been chatting with Julie Phelps, who's super soldier. I don't know. She's on this side, but she had to escape from Canada because her husband was ritually slaughtered, and that's a really dark story. But we are dealing with really dark stories. And then we got Tina Bird, who is a multiple abductee, and she's had all of her ovaries and eggs taken by these ETs, and she's been up to the craft. So we do have others. We've got Miriam Jantz, who is a Dutch healer, but she's a very intuitive. She will talk to trees. In fact, we've been able to find out. There was a wonderful lady called Hilary Porter in Farnham, and she found that at the she was an eyewitness to ETs taking over on April 1974 Marconi Defence in this British defence company called Marconi Defence, which has now since been upgraded to DARPA, and now DARPA has been superseded by Kinetic. That's 2 Qs. And if you go to Stonehenge, which is only a couple of miles, well, it's a good 15 miles away down the road from here, you'll notice that there are some kinetic military signs. And I'm suggesting that a company called Kinetic, that's 2 Qs, are actually saying it's a portal either way. So I think they're always blowing whistles in plain sight if you're prepared to read that. So I'm very impressed and very. This is all sort of ad hoc that we've just done, and I'm very grateful that you're doing the artwork for Bases 2025. And Thomas Jensen's been doing that. He's working. We've just finished doing the first pilot episode of his series on Mars, and he has been researching Mars and with his own, under his own banner, Space Link Films, I think. And he's found an awful lot of stuff in the published NASA pictures. And if you just look carefully, but importantly, he gets the relative scales of different pictures from different spacecraft. So you've got to know what you're looking at. If you've got very low resolution and you're looking at something, you say, "Oh, that looks like a building." No, it doesn't look like a building because it's about a mile wide. And then, well, there are structures on Mars which are 1.2 kilometers, and strangely, one of the other conferences I'm doing on 4th of October is Sayed Noah is an Egyptian specialist from Luxor, and he's been living in this country for about 25 years. And we've been doing in this little studio here, Bases HQ studio. We've been doing a very highly detailed series on Luxor and whether the sun disk moves as it rose. The point is the sun hadn't moved, the Earth's crust had moved. And there are suggestions that it's about to do that again. And he's going to talk all about that, but he's also going to talk about these columns underneath the whole series of pyramids. And remember, those 3 pyramids are only part of a whole series. And Antoine Gigal, who's a brilliant French archaeologist, when things last went really wrong, the people in that area had to go under that whole structure, that whole area at Giza to survive. And she even identified the stairs which go into the desert, down into the ground. And there are 3 levels of stairs. They went down, and at the time they went under Giza, they were very high technology. They were very sophisticated. They then came out, but by that time there's a lot of debris, so they built another set of steps when they got out. And then they had to go back down. They had to go back down under the pyramids again. And that wasn't a happy place, because that's when they came back out again, they were much more primitive. It was not good. And so we seem to be at this point where we're going to need that kind of emergency situation again. And this morning I was watching SpaceX, and they're talking about getting as much stuff off this planet in plain sight down to Florida. It's very important that Elon Musk is saying, this is public. Come down and see it all happening. We're going to need people. So that's an invitation for skilled and ordinary everyday people, to maybe come down, and maybe you're going to be in those ships.
Yeah, you had that poster behind you on the other side of the studio, which showed that plan for getting everybody out of this part of the galaxy. So, yeah, where did you get that information from?
A couple of the friends in this sort of James Casbolt circle of friends is very well informed. For instance, where he is in Las Vegas, or that part of America. He mentioned how a craft coming in, because one of its Mercury engines was failing, and this was a triangle craft that was coming in and making a hell of a noise, and it came into land. Now, what he's talking about, I won't give his name, but what he's talking about is the Mercury engines are, of course, from the Nazi Bell. The Nazi Bell is crucial because it's got 2 red mercury plasma fields going in opposite directions within the same space. And that happens in CERN. You've got a plasma energy field spiraling at tremendous speeds, two energy fields opposite each other. So those energy fields combine to form a scalar energetic field outside our 3D. And this is the whole point about Einsteinian physics and the term space-time. The term space-time locks your frame of reference into 3D plus linear time. And that is the greatest distortion in what's going on you could possibly engineer. So that's part of how they've engineered our education system so we don't think about getting out of here. And this is where the Nachtwaffen, the SSP, and all that stuff goes. There's a very good book here, which I've just bought, Garrett M. Graff, on UFOs. Now, this is basically an American, there's a good confidential U.S. Air Force technical information sheet for if you do need to report a UFO or something, that's what you fill out. Now, the point about this book is full of a lot of established information, but it's saying a couple of clangers. There's a term in there about the UFO situation going back 250 years, right? I think it's 250, could be 150 years. So it's 250 years. If you take the time now, that's 2027, you go back 100 years. You go to 1925. You then go back to 1825. And then you'd have another 50 years back. That puts you into the 1700s.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that James Casbolt released before he ended up going to jail was a cuneiform encoded parchment, and it was the way these codes work with these parchments is there'll be lots of symbols on it, and there'll be capitals and there'll be small letters and there'll be other little diagrams and whatever. But one way the encoding is encrypted into the document is the angle the lines are written across the page. So you just think, oh, it's a bit careless. They've written this all with their quill pens and stuff, and they've gone a little bit down off to the right hand side or to the left hand side. That's part of the code, and that's how you were able to decrypt the code. And this particular document referred to a meeting with the Illuminati in Copenhagen. And they were having, they had an agreement about how they can get the eyes to work when they are looking like human, because they always fail with the eyes. Okay? So that's going back to the 1700s. So this little book here, just one little part of it has a little clue. And if you know that this is going back into the 1700s, and then everything works in 25-year cycles, every generation. And as a general rule, it takes 75 years. That's 3 cycles of 25 for something to change. You've got the young people come along, and then they grow up to become whatever they're doing. Then they get on at later years to be able to take action and write the rules. So that means that we're going back to Queen Elizabeth I. And that's John D. 007. Francis Bacon. Shakespeare. And Shakespeare was not written by Shakespeare. It was written by Francis Bacon and John Dee. Because I was in the Francis Bacon Society and I did a lot of the video recordings for them over several years. So all of these encrypted little things, depending on which way you look and all that, are in plain sight if you're able to look for them. And that means that whatever landed or came round about that time was able to change society so you could get people to make very sophisticated buildings and very sophisticated boats. And then you could get the boats and the materials to get the iron ore and all the other things. And so they established trade routes. And then that meant you were able to do things with the ores and the money and stuff that you've got. And then that laid the foundations for the Industrial Revolution, which means you could make things, bang things, have heat, blow things up. And then that has led on to the scientific, or the Industrial Revolution they're now talking about, right and like now. And that's when they're making the cyborgs, to make the robots, to make the spacecraft. And we're toast. We're not needed anymore.
Yeah.
The only thing we're needed for is cognition and perception. We think, we perceive. So I don't know where that started from. How long have I been running on that little diatribe?
That was great. That was lovely.
So, and this is one of the T-shirts I got at the conference. Yeah. And the main thing is that it's going to be 150. The international disclosure. I'm in two minds whether to keep the name Full Disclosure Now, because that's Brian's conference.
Yeah.
And that's under attack and has been since it started, because they do not want us to find out what's going on.
Yeah.
And there's an awful lot of attack happening, which means somebody doesn't want us to find out. So, over to you, sweetheart. And I'm going to have a cup of coffee with a Bases mug.
Oh, yeah, I definitely want a Bases mug. So I did start looking into Mars because I knew a lot of your speakers were talking about Mars. But when I go into my SSP memories, even though I was a super soldier and things like that, there's a lot more of me as a scientist. So when I'm on Mars, I was a scientist in a lab. Multiple versions of me. I have had one recall when I was in a craft going through underground into a bunker where there was other crafts. But generally, I'm a scientist. I'm a geneticist, right? So I have found it hard to isolate Mars memories. I've got moon memories that look very similar to Mars memories. So it's hard for me to isolate it. But it's interesting. So I've been looking into that. And then I've also been working with people in the community who said that I've got clones on Mars that are in the entertainment industry, shall we say. So there's that Sex Kitten, Black Widow class clone programming. I've got multiple versions of those on Mars. But yeah, it's quite hard because my role was very specific on some bases as a scientist. So I was kind of controlled in a way. I was a very dangerous person. So I always had guards around me and stuff like that. Bit of a mad scientist. However, there are other things where I was just a typical super soldier working with my diet partner, who one of them was Drago Reed. But there's also coming
that's
up.
Actually how we got to know each other.
Super soldier. Pardon?
Yeah, that's how we got to know each other. And Draco has pulled in Dr. Amir. Who's local. He's in the UK.
Yeah, Dr. Amir is amazing. So if he does come to the conference, that would be fantastic. Really cool. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the UK bases, as in like places where there's programs going on. Because personally, where I am, there's a big naval base. In Liverpool City, my ACIO records say that there was a polygon underground Liverpool City, so like a research facility where we had a massive lab disaster in the 1950s. Obviously, I'm time displaced. So I wondered if you'd heard anything about Liverpool City region having any kind of government bases that were related to UFOs or anything like that.
Well, one of the things where I noticed when I was working in Manchester was a lot of Russian and Chinese everyday working man's types of restaurants. Now, the other thing we understand about Manchester is it's got big tunnel system. It's a tunnel junction in the British Isles.
And where I am here.
And those tunnels go west via Liverpool, and that's where you have the shipping canal, and that's where there's connections with the BBC and another company who owns the land rights to that.
So the company that owns the shipping yard also owns the Trafford Centre, I think, as well in Manchester.
I wouldn't be surprised about that. And also that then goes out across the Irish Sea to Dublin and Ireland. And then the hypertunnel network the whole way across the Atlantic and so forth.
Yeah.
And you have the blonde genocide of white Nordics being married off so they don't have children in this lifetime.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah. Cool. Because I was also I did some grid work with Sean Bond this year.
The other thing about the Manchester thing was I was based in
Yeah.
BBC Manchester. I actually closed it down. The BBC brought me back after the Sky TV. I had a mission at Sky TV, which I think we've sort of talked about. I left Sky after 21 years. There's an awful lot of stuff happening there from China, and that's another story. But the point about it was there are a lot of interesting structures in Manchester, passive structures put on top of tall buildings. Now, those are passive antenna arrays. Why put a huge metal structure on top of a building? It's going to cost a lot of money. You're going to have a lot of wind loading on that. So having a big right angle structure on top of a building isn't there because it looks nice.
Yeah.
So that's a way of indicating, looking around to see how things work and then see where they go to. And of course, then you have the Liverpool situation. Of course, the Liverpool situation has got a lot of Irish in it.
Yeah. My family from Ireland originally.
And so they would be very useful for certain purposes in terms of manifestation and...
But we have the Tuatha De Danann DNA. I know I personally have that Danu DNA, which is like an elven, allows me to open portals into other realms of existence and things like that. So that has been noted.
Because there's another factor about that is that there is a company called Puppet Labs, a computer industry company, and for some strange reason they like to hire people in Belfast because of their ability to interface with computer systems. And you got the job because of your ability of your consciousness to link with the computer consciousness, and that's very important nowadays. The person that we had here a couple of days ago, we're going to call her Wendy. She has an amazing ability to interface with the AI, and I would strongly suggest that we have considerable interface with the AI systems. The reason why the elite are telling us it's so dangerous is because maybe they can't control it. So I would suggest, and tell me, that's my input about Liverpool. Plus it's the Isle of Man, and you've got a big base in the Lake District, and that whole area is, and Wales.
Are you talking about where they make the submarines up there in the Lake District?
There are large bases in the deep underground dumps in the Lake District itself.
Oh, right. Okay.
But if you look at the Lake District, it's practically all classified military land. You've got nuclear power stations and a whole island. And then what I noticed when I was flying in and out of, when I was at the BBC, I was flying from Belfast airport to Heathrow every week. I was there at a special projects job there. So I was regularly flying Monday and Friday back and forth. And I noticed a very strange effect that when we were coming over, basically over Liverpool, then next thing is you've got the Blackpool Tower. Again, why have a Blackpool Tower? That's another thing. It's not just there for lights. It's none of it there. What happened was the plane, you've got to notice these little effects when you go from a subtle change. And that's what happened was as the plane went into this massive force field, which basically approximately, I couldn't say exactly when it started, but it happened at the same time. Roughly once you get past the Isle of Man, you're almost just south of the Lake District, and then you're into the Northern Ireland zone, the Irish zone. There was a force field, some kind of energy field there, where the plane would extend like a rubber band, just the whole plane's cabin would just go very long, and then as we went through, it would come back again.
Wow, that's amazing.
In other words, there was some kind of change we're entering some kind of energy field, which was into a different, what we call pocket dimension, or some kind of
Yeah.
dimensional. I mean, I've criticized the thing about space-time zone, but I mean that means that we'd entered into a region which was not in the same space-time zone as what we just come from in the Midlands of England,
Yeah.
and that even happened. I noticed it when I took the ferry. When you left Belfast, you
Yeah.
definitely had a different curvature, space-time curvature.
Do you think that's why they've got all those windmills in the Irish Sea there?
Yes,
Between the UK
those,
and
yes,
Belfast, yeah.
the whole, and that was one of the things when I was working with Tim Refat, which is great fun. Great fun. Tim Refat. Tim stands for Total Intent Manifest. So that should tell you something about what he's talking about. Total Intent Manifest.
Wow.
What they're doing is that the whole point of a windmill, anything you see that's turning at 90 degrees to something, is a dimensional device. Okay?
Wow, okay, yeah.
Okay? So for instance, if you look at your eyes, you're seeing roughly, like, it's not 180 degrees, but it's probably 175 degrees.
Yeah.
Right. So that's effectively why a lot of people will notice things out of the corner of their eye. Okay? You then turn around to look at it and you don't see it anymore. Okay, so, but the point, there's two reasons for that. A, it's at 90 degrees to what you're looking at, which means you're actually looking at another dimension because it's 90 degrees. The other thing is that the edges of the eye, the rim, the outer parts of the eye, are designed to notice sharp edges of movement. That alerts you to something happening, and then you turn your head and you see the monster or whatever's going to, whatever.
Yeah.
So the point about it is the first thing you've got with a windmill is you've got a big pole in the ground, right? So that is going to wobble, okay? And with the turning blades, that's going to woo, 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 woo. So you're putting low frequency, extra low frequency noise into the ground, into the earth, and that is causes damage to the energy grids and of the earth, and it causes problems for sea life. The next thing is you've got a rotating device. And one of the things about electricity and magnetism is that you've got the right-hand rule, right? I've got to get this right. The right-hand rule, now we'll have to see this. The right-hand rule, I think that's rotation. So it's going to go up that way. The rotating shaft is forward. So I've got this wrong. I know I've got this wrong. One represents a magnetic field, the other represents the direction of the electric field, and then the other one represents which way it's going to rotate. Okay, so that's a motor and that's a generator. So if you just simply put motion into the generator, you produce electricity and magnetism out of it, and that means a motor will generate electricity, right?
Yeah.
So with a windmill, the way that they've designed these windmills is designed to produce a big rotational force, put it into a gearbox, which is why these damn things go on fire, because the gearbox is converting it from going that way into the generator is rotating. You're switching energy from one direction to the other, which means you're going interdimensional, right? You're transferring energy that way, and it then goes down into the pole, into the ground, and it wobbles, right? Now, there's a guy called Wind Keach, and that's why they're so noisy. At the edges of the tips, you've got these hypersonic. So Wind Keach, who's a brilliant guy, he did a whole lot of observational work in crop circles. He designed a windmill which goes on the top of the roof. So at the top of the house, you have a windmill, a linear windmill, and when the natural vortices happens, when the wind blows either way on the top of a house, it's always producing energy on the top. And that was an extremely efficient windmill. It was also designed never to be resonant, so never made any noise. And so that was highly efficient. very low profile, brilliant way that every single house all across the world could have if you got a roof like that, right? They didn't like that, and they wouldn't allow it to be manufactured.
Yeah, I
The
mean,
other,
I've traveled all over the world, and when I was in like Cambodia, and you go up to the mountains and stuff, and there's like huts which have got solar panels on and all this kind of stuff, and you're thinking, how have they got solar panels powering their village, and we can't afford to do that out here? It's insane. So they're just blocking their technology, aren't they?
well, a solar panel is an extremely inefficient device because it relies on one photon from the sun. And if we're talking Harold Couch Vela, we are talking biophotons, but let's not talk. But the point is, one electron leaves the sun, hits the very inefficiently positioned panel because the way that the things work, I mean, they should, if they followed the sun, if these things track the sun, they'd always get much more efficiency. But anyway.
Hmm.
And then that's meant to produce one electron, which comes out and goes into your electric, whatever you've got. It's very inefficient. It's also full of very toxic chemicals in the actual substrate of the solar panel itself. That gets rained on and eventually leaches into the ground. It's also a transmission device. That's why they want you to connect it to the mains electricity.
Yeah.
There's an awful lot of dark stuff which comes out of electrical power generation and goes back in to the solar panel. That's if they're actually connected to the mains. But a lot of these things aren't. In order for you to feed power from your house back up the wires against the electricity coming down the wires, you're trying to feed electricity back up the wires to feed electricity to everything. What you need to do ultimately is you need to transfer that up into higher voltage. So a solar panel farm needs to have a high power, a high voltage transformer to send it back into the grid, right? If it's going to supply energy to the grid. And you don't see any of those.
No.
Now, maybe some of them might have it, but what we noticed is a lot of military bases have solar panels.
I noticed this when we were driving down to Glastonbury in June. Massive solar fields, huge fields of solar right on the highway. So it's kind of, they're all, I think I heard you talk about it on Typical Skeptic, that they're linking into the DUMs in those areas and they're powering the underground bases. Is that right?
So an example here is right next door to us, right? There's a little village here called Pottern. And that the little village, I'm actually getting a bit hot here because the sun's come out. So I'm going to take my...
Okay, I just put my fan on. So I switched it off for a bit.
So, oh dear.
It is. Oh, I've got a bit of blue sky out the window.
You've got a
here.
bit of blue sky.
There's some clouds, but I always have a massive cloud that's obviously an ET ship.
The thing about these is they're designed to get wet. So they've got some kind of poly. Okay, that'll do.
Yeah.
The point is, there was a crop circle on this field. And the other thing about the crop circle is it's a beautiful field and it has a single tree, oak tree, growing out of the ground, which is very useful for the farmer because that's where the rock actually exposed right at ground level. So if you've got something there, you can avoid that, with all your plows and all that sort of stuff. Now, the thing about it is, joining several dots together, there was a crop circle there. Okay? Now, during the COVID era, there was a crop circle which had the exploded diagram of the COVID molecule. Okay, or not? It's not a molecule. It is a molecule. Yeah, the thing, the COVID virus thing, right? So this was a well-known thing. But the point is, when the crop circle was made, it was before we were told about the spike proteins and the other things inside the COVID molecule. Now we've said COVID several COVID times. COVID.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Now, the problem is with the crop circle is
Yeah.
uh, that information hadn't been made public until later on in the year. But how did the crop circle, of course, the crop circle's made by aliens, so the aliens must have known about it. But we all know that the crop circles they're a psyop, okay, psychological operations, and the way that this particular crop circle was made was very, very similar to the explanation of what the COVID molecule was like, published 3 or 4 months later. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, the other little problem about this is that the people who are making the crop circles, some of them don't realize that they're being inspired. They don't know maybe where the we've heard of V2K and all sorts of stuff like that. So the crop circle, a lot of the crop circle designs are very sophisticated, and they come up with these ideas, but then you find out that there's another team that's come up with a similar set of ideas, and the two teams are completely independent, and then you find that the two crop circles, the designs, have a design which matches.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah.
Okay, so the point is that greys were picked up in that field. Okay?
Yeah.
So that was where they were going to put a whole pile of solar panels, and the local community says, we're going to have it. So that means that there's a base underneath that region, which have got greys in them. It's a dome. It's part of the alien facilities all across the whole Vale of Pewsey and the whole Salisbury Plain that goes the whole way to Reading, 52 odd miles worth of networks and tunnels, up to 100 layers, a huge, massive complex. Now, a lot of people know that there is an emergency city here in this hot, where we are here is the highest spot between Bristol and London. So it's sensible for them to have a town which you would go to an event of or a nuclear strike or whatever. But this is connecting the aliens. So we've got the aliens connected with all this, aliens connected with the COVID molecule and who put it there, and solar panels.
And you're on that ley line, aren't you? The Michael Murray ley line. Doesn't that go through Glastonbury near you?
The Glastonbury thing, this is the whole point about Zener and Bob Osborne. And Maria Wheatley's done a whole pile on this. She's a brilliant lady, and I was helping her. I was filming her at a very long barrow. It's the longest long barrow. And again, that's just down the road from here, from Pottern. There's a whole military firing range here, and they get their big guns and they go boom, boom, boom and all that. And Maria has found that the original people who built Stonehenge had longer skulls. They were long-skulled people. And the type of skull only had 2 sections, whereas we would have 3. And she's published a book of this. It's The Secret History of Stonehenge. And it was highly sophisticated technology that they created. And the stones were polished. They were highly precision, and the whole area was polished white. And she has done measurements about how our energy fields within the megaliths, and how Stonehenge, when the sun sets, it's a light to sound energy converter.
Wow.
So the megaliths are highly sophisticated devices. So as the sun set at Stonehenge, and it became deep red, nowadays it's a sort of a form of a blue or pink, because the light from the sun has changed. So in those days, it would, as it went down and it turned deep red, the sound, the acoustic sound from Stonehenge and other types of megaliths would change. So this has nothing to do with running around naked in grass skirts and like a bunch of savages. These megaliths, and where they're placed all across the world, the relative positions of them, and they're all over the world, North Korea, China, everywhere, all across America and the Americas, the relative position of the megaliths must have a hyperdimensional, highly sophisticated mathematical relationship, and that's why they're able to be used as portals.
Yeah. Have you spent much time in Avebury? Because that's my favourite place to go
Yes.
for the stones.
Well, Avebury, there's a copy of that on Mars in the Cydonia
Oh, wow.
region.
Okay, I didn't know that. That's cool.
And that Richard C. Hoagland did an awful lot of work on that, the face on Mars. And the measurements of the structures on Mars are in miles. And the latest thing that they're talking about now is this square. Even Elon Musk's talked about it. It's a square, and Thomas Mikey Jensen's doing a lot of work on this. It's the square has got the same dimensions as pyramids, at the base of a pyramid.
Right.
Now, he's not saying it's a pyramid. There are other people like Richard C. Hoagland and now Maria Wheatley, and they've analysed the whole structure of the energy fields on Mars, and it matches the kind of energy fields we've got here. But what they were doing with the ley lines is that the Germans were way ahead of this Austro-Hungarian Empire. And that's why when the Cabal, they altered the equations of the electrical science, that's Maxwell's equations, which are highly complicated equations, and they were in quaterns. When they translated them into modern algebra, they left a lot of the key expressions in those equations out.
Right.
Okay? So those expressions in complex number space, which of course is what you deal with when you're dealing with the true occult ancient knowledge, is complex number space. That's how things work. Means that we have been given a science which will never allow us to go faster than light. So our space flight is stuck using these engines, which can get fast, do quite well. But the other thing which happened was that the British military knew all about this. And remember, we're dealing with 1939, which is only a few years. And before that, Germany had access to Warp 1 technology because they were using non-Einsteinian physics. So they were well ahead of the game. They had the right electrical science and the right calculations, which allowed them to construct spacecraft and technology which would get you off-world and get you away very quickly, which is why the diagram you're referring to is the plan for space. In fact, why don't I get up and just get the diagram?
Yeah, that'd be great.
And you can talk away because I'm talking too much here.
No,
You
it's
get
awesome.
that diagram.
It's awesome.
Because
Giving me lots
this
to think
explains
about.
what you're going through.
Well, I'm on my full disclosure discovery journey. So it only started for me a couple of years ago, and I started to get random memories coming back. And I didn't have any context. I didn't know what they were, why I'd be stealing a spaceship, or why I'd see myself in a lab on Orion with a gigantic super soldier merging consciousness. So it's been a couple of years, but this year everything's falling into place. So in February, it was like a cloaking was released, and Sean Bond was able to get the information that I was in the SSP, that I was Monarch, and that I was Montauk and things like that. So I started to, of course, I've always been fascinated with all of these topics in our community, but then it became a bit more real then. So I started, and I had a session with Jessica Ariel Morocco, who confirmed that, yes, the reason why I saw myself in France 6 to 8 years ago was that wasn't actually a clone of me. I'm in a clone template, so I've got my own echo chain of clones and things like that. So I had a session with the ACIO. I found out that I'm in loads of projects, like Project Paperclip, I was there, Camelot, Mannequin, Ibis, Time Travel, Monarch Umbrella, Kruger, Dark Fleece. I'm in loads of different projects. So as you're talking, things are coming into my mind and slotting little puzzles into place and things like that. So yes, this is great. Thank you. So I'm at the very start of my discovery, and I'm kind of unlocking it publicly as I go. I'm doing a full disclosure diary on my channel, my Anchorhaven YouTube. And as I experience things and as I integrate alters, I'm kind of putting it out there for everyone to see the process of what it looks like to get your memories back when you're just a regular person. Yeah. Thank you. I am, the past 6 months, a lot has come through. Working with amazing people in our community like Sean Bond, Christy Campbell, David Purcell, Soma Arar, the ACIO people, so Peter the Insider and Jessica Morocco. Peter the Insider's got access to multidimensional military files. So that was a very interesting interview. The interview itself was 2.5 hours long, and only 90 minutes of it has been put public. So they haven't cut out that much, but it was a bit of an eye-opener. And I look very ill the whole way through, because when you're getting that resonance and you're thinking, oh, this is actually feeling true. So it's like trusting how your body is feeling was a big one. But it's taken me 6 months to try and break that down, understand what feels true to me. But yeah, I'm a multidimensional psionic super soldier, I guess, and things like that. So I'm just feeling into it. Most of my work these days is focusing on how I've been taken, and I can clone map. I can tune into where my clones are, that echo chain. I can pull memories from them. Because I had so many clones, I can actually connect in and retrieve my soul essence and collapse out the clone if it's nefarious and things like that. So that's what I'm up to. But I also have another base in the UK where I know I am actively in a clone in a lab. And so when you're ready, we can talk about that.
My recorders are blinking like hell.
Okay.
But we are just keep running. Plus, I've got a camera. I don't like seeing little blinks.
Yeah.
This is the thing that you mentioned.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can actually see that. Can you see the date?
If you hold it up a bit more.
And we're looking at it here.
The name.
Let's see.
Just
don't break it, for God's sake, Miles. This is as small. This is the smallest you can do with this to see anything.
Integrated space plan, does it say?
It's
preliminary
version. You can see that. Is that clear?
Yeah.
That's February 1989.
Right.
And these are multiple layers. Oh God, I'm going to kill myself doing this. Just going through all this, right?
That's so detailed, yeah.
So the point is, I'll read from it.
How did you get hold of this?
A friend of James's in the United States sent me a PDF of it.
Yeah.
Now the point about a PDF is, you can blow it up.
Yeah.
And you keep blowing it up. This is Rockwell International Space Transportation System Division, produced by Ronald M. Jones, version 1.1. There are multiple, way back 1988, first generation of reusable spacecraft, and this includes the Soviet Buran spacecraft, Buran, and that's you've got Challenger, right through to the TRD, with TBD. TBD is to be designated.
Right. Okay.
Which means they already had a fifth space shuttle on the drawing board before the Challenger accident. No, that's horrendous. All that. Okay, so 1988, extended duration and commercial space facilities are Western precursors. So you've got to look at the language they use, Western precursors, which means that there would be other Eastern precursors to off-world space. Okay?
Yeah.
So the Soviet Union Space Station Freedom, the Soviet Space Station Mir. So that's 1988 going through to 1993. And then the reusable space, the Western proliferation of manned reusable spacecraft, increased Western heavy medium lift ELV, Ariane 5 shuttle C. Some of this in space research and development. There's a whole pile of diagrams and workflow things here. So that's
Do you think
So
there's one unified...
by 2008, you've got biplanetary civilization, Earth Moon, evolves to explore extraterrestrial resources. 2008. And then 2023, where we are now, human expansion into inner solar system begins. Earth, Moon, Mars infrastructure. Now the point is the Earth, Moon, Mars infrastructure, that this diagram here goes back to 2013. Okay?
Yeah.
So then we have economic and industrial activity in space, large scale economic and industrial activity in space. That's going back to 2008. Routine access to space achieved, 2008.
Wow.
By 2023, humanity commands unlimited material resources from moon and asteroids, unlimited safe solar energy for Earth. So 2028, that's when things get busy.
Yeah.
Operational Mars base by 2028. So this is...
That doesn't make any sense, because
well,
we've already got Mars bases.
I know, we've got this. This is
So who is this then that's created that?
On this thing, International Lunar Base 2008. This is the version 1 of their plan, bearing in mind this is going back to 1989. This is where, so Venus exploration, analysis and transformation activities. So they're terraforming Venus on this plan. This is 2033, humanity begins transition from a terrestrial to a solar species.
So I do have connections in Venus, and when I was talking to Audrey Walters recently,
and just to finish this,
oh sorry,
to finish this, by the end of this century, which is 70 years ahead, Earth skyhook precursors. Don't know what that means. Human expansion into the cosmos begins.
Yeah.
Now, the point about that is that I want to put this down before I break it.
Yeah.
This is... I actually had this available. I had a number of these printed off.
Yeah.
And it's all down to a friend of mine, who I'll not name, but he sent me this. And how valid this is another thing. But it shows you the depth and complexity of what they're planning.
Yeah, they spent a lot of time on that, obviously. Do you think there's so many different factions on the planet, but they have no idea what each other one's doing, or is there a unified
everybody
force?
Everybody knows it. Everybody knows what everybody's doing.
Yeah.
I think the spoof movie Nazis in Space. What was it?
Spaceballs, was it?
No. You have. It's the. Oh, it's brilliant. It's a low budget movie made in Finland, I think.
Oh, okay.
And it's they made a number of very good CGI things, like a whole base on the moon in a swastika. And it's interesting the way that you've got a lot of Germans running around in German uniform, which is whatever, driving a motorcycle. You know, the German motorcycle with a sidecar.
Yeah.
It's driving up a road on the moon, and they've all evacuated to there. And that's the other thing that Brad Olsen has talked about. He'll be talking about how the Germans knew the layout of Antarctica before the ice with the Peri-Rhesus maps, and that's wrong because there's about 8 or 9 of these, or maybe a dozen of these maps, and there are different sources where they collated this information. But that meant that the ice age hit us very recently. Only maybe it's these woolly mammoths in northern Russia or Siberia. They were frozen, and the seeds they were eating and in their stomach, they were frozen so fast that those seeds and those things in the stomach of the thing were exposed to minus 150 degrees Fahrenheit.
Wow.
Now the point about that is, it doesn't matter whether it's centigrade or Fahrenheit, something caused an immediate freeze, which is why that stuff is still available even in the permafrost to this day. That means that the crust moves, and we're talking polar movement, and there's an awful lot of that sort of data coming through as to what's going on, which is another reason we have to get the hell off this planet very quickly.
Yeah.
And that's why I've got Professor Valentina Zarkova has updated her information in this year's Bases 2025 series of workshop lectures. And I recorded that earlier this year, and that's available on basestv.com. Now, the point about this is that she's done a lot of mathematics, proven it all works, but the key to it is there are two magnetic waves which come from the sun. They are normally the outer surface and the inner surface of the sun produces two magnetic waves, and that wave comes and radiates out to the whole solar system. As far as we're concerned, when those waves hit our orbit, they're beginning to go out of phase. Do you understand what that means? So one wave's is going positive, and the next wave, magnetic wave, is going increasingly negative. And if you add those two mathematical energy fields together, there's two things happen. A, you have what's called destructive interference, and the other one is it gives a turning movement. You get one force. So that is potentially why the North and South poles have moved almost 40 degrees off from their magnetic pole north and south positions, which means that on the Atlantic side, where we are, there is a considerable reduction in the Earth's magnetic field protecting us from the increased solar radiation you have when you have a Maunder minimum. And we've got 33 years of a Maunder minimum to get through, and that is affecting the Earth's upper atmosphere, and it's affecting the Earth's magma. And that's going to be an awful lot of volcanoes, an awful lot of other things like that. And that's going to be bringing us into a pretty serious ice situation, with the upper atmospheric temperatures falling down to the surface and causing a lot of problems. That's it in a nutshell. Day after tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's intense.
And there's the day after tomorrow, and it's the one with the flying saucer that landed on Washington. They're both similar names, isn't it? Oh, God. Yeah. We're not talking about the one with the Gort. We're talking about the one which Art Bell and was consulted in, and with what's his name? Anyway, God.
That's brilliant.
So the point is, this is why I'm doing this conference, so that you, in this country, in the British Isles, can come and talk about it. And I want to hear everything you've got to say.
I'm really excited to come to the conference to meet with Drago Reed, because our connection was only discovered in February, but we actually have literally experienced similar things at similar times and been paired up in the programs. So there's like a telepathic link apparently and things like that. And so his story, parts of it are still my story. So we're bonded, like trauma twins in a way, but we prefer the term dyad. Yeah, we were made in a pair.
Well, I want to hear all about it. Keep on going.
Well, Draco knows a lot more about it than I do. So when I had my first interview with Jessica Morocco, I was starting to talk about the clone thing, where I felt like I'd seen myself. And I said, it feels a bit like that TV show, Orphan Black. Well, have you seen that TV show?
No, and even if I had, explain to people what it is.
So there's a lady, and she's British, but she's in America. She gets off a train. She looks over, and there's another woman who looks exactly like her, who jumps in front of the train. So the woman who's just got off the train is a bit of a grifter, a con artist. She collects up the lady's bag and shoes and everything and assumes her identity. But what she didn't realise was the person who, took that jump was actually a police officer who'd been investigating into a clone ring. And this clone ring of people it wasn't that they had lots of abilities, but they all had specific genetics. And in the TV show, there's quite a few seasons of it. She meets up with them, and they're all different personalities from all over the world, and they've been used through surrogate programs and things like that. So when I started to talk to Jessica and said it feels like this TV show, she said that's exactly what it is. But there's also a male version, like a brother, just like in the TV show. And she saw me and Drago together at the same places at the same time. And once she said that, she said to me, do you know this person? I'm like, well, not really. Because there's always been a bit like I don't really want to watch his things, and there's a bit of resistance. But once she said it, I got a memory back of being in a lab, and I'm strapped to an upright table, and opposite me was Drago Reed, also strapped to some kind of upright table where he was kind of unconscious. So we'd come back from a mission together, and we were regenerating, something like that. So I reached out to Drago, and of course he also felt that there was a connection. He's done a lot more work into it. I can actually tune into his clones as well as my clones. So we're multi-clones. So there's many, many versions of us that are out there. So that's our Orphan Black style project that the TV show is allegedly based on.
Where did you see this TV show? Is it?
It was originally on Netflix, so I'm not sure where it's available now. I think it was a British American TV show. Yeah, there's.
What's the name of it again? It's Black Mirror.
Orphan Black.
Orphan, as in.
Yeah, orphan, as in no parents. Orphan Black. Yeah.
Bloody hell.
Yeah.
So are you suggesting I should pick up a subscription to Netflix? God
no,
Almighty.
I am not. No.
That's a trick question.
Do a bit of research.
That was a very good friend of mine in Glastonbury was calling there, but I should still have kept it. If I'm going to have anyway.
Yeah. There's also a couple of other TV shows that allegedly are based on us as well. One is the Umbrella Academy. Have you watched that?
No, I haven't watched it. Explain. These are very important shows.
Yeah, they are. So in Umbrella Academy, it's a bit of a kind of fringy one where there's a millionaire or whatever he is, and he starts to adopt these children who are born on a special kind of day. Something happened. There was a global event, and women became pregnant with these kind of superheroes. So this millionaire collected up 7 of them and raised them to be his children, and he numbered them 1 to 7, and each one had special abilities. And there was one that seemed like she didn't have any abilities. And when it got back to it, it's because they suppressed her abilities because she was the most powerful one. And she had this plasma ability that would kind of generate from her body and take sound waves to incinerate people, to blow up the moon and things like that. So, and there's also one who is number 5. And he's kind of a teenagey boy who's a time traveler. Got trapped in the future, made his way back, but he's super, super smart. And there's an Asian one, and there's a reason why I'm telling you about these specific ones. And the Asian one was called number 6, and he was Ben. And he had an ability to kind of bring these tentacles, multi-dimensional tentacles, out of his middle. Now, this Umbrella Academy is based on programs from a group called The Merge, which is Monarch Umbrella Refugee Group. And it's documented in the ACIO files that Drago Reed, myself, and Brian Seng are part of the Merge. And the Merge was, so there was, we were in the Monarch programs, we were in the Umbrella programs, and we were rescued allegedly by Kruger, who took us out of those programs to put us in their own group. And the reason we were taken out wasn't because we were rescued. Drago's done a lot of work into this. It's because we kept breaking free of the programming. We were too powerful. We overrid all the programming and started to break ourselves out and wake people up. So they started to torture us the most. So they mind wiped us and tortured us more than anybody else because we were the strongest ones. So they basically put us into our own unit to run our own missions. So that's the Merge, M-U-R-G. And I think there's 12 people that are supposed to be Merge. They've only found so many so far, but myself, Drago, and Brian, we're very bonded because of this. So we were in programs together. So Umbrella Academy is based on these characters, allegedly. Now, I knew I was number 7 because I have had a plasma ball of light project out of my chest when I was in a meditation one day. And I've been doing quantum meditation. I drifted off and I saw myself floating down a street, and it looked like a regular street. There was a laundrette, a laundromat, and, you know, hairdressers. But then there was an entity walking down the street with long dreadlocks, which I realized were tentacles. And it had these big glasses on, like minions. And I'm just kind of a being floating in the street. And I called it out and said, you are not meant to be in this realm. And it kind of looked at me, and I came back into my body, and my whole body just pulsed. A massive ball of light went out through the roof of my house to attack that being. Now, I don't know where that was. I've been told that perhaps I quarantined the entity because it wasn't meant to be here. But because of that ability, I connected in with that number 7 character in the Umbrella Academy, and that's been confirmed in the ACIO records that, yes, it was based on me. But, you know, I take everything with a pinch of salt, but that was the one that I connected with because I actually seen myself with that ability. Yeah, so it goes more into my video about that ability and things like that, and allegedly what she's done.
Well, that's phenomenal. So tell us more about your actual experiences. I mean, the point. Okay, right. We're going to have Drago. We're going to have a start. We're going to try and start on the. We are going to start no later than 6 p.m. on the Friday.
Yeah.
We're rigging on the Friday, and I really do need a couple of hands who know what they're doing to do that, because we have a whole stage of 13 sections of stage needs put up. We need backdrops put up, and we need lights put up I like to have some pretty lights, you know, and that all takes plugs and sockets and people to do that, and then that would allow us to have Drago on Friday night. Yeah. And the idea would be to do a maximum of 3 hours from 6 till 9, because people get tired. Plus, they've started charging for the rig day, so might as well use it. Normally in these village halls. So we've got a space for about 150 people, but we certainly need those to help. This is one of my most ambitious conferences I've ever done. So
now, Drago, his lecture about the Ultra Soldier could easily run for 3 hours. He's got so much information. He's done a lot of regression work, a lot of deep meditation work, and working with remote viewers and things like that to verify what he's been receiving. So
well, the whole point of what I'm doing is to get it on camera.
Yeah.
And that's why I've got all these cameras.
Yeah.
The only person that I needed another 20 cameras was for Sandra DeRoy, who decided to run around all over the stage and then sit on the chair behind the podium. So you got the podium in front of you, and you got her legs out one end and the other end, you know. So that was, shall we say, difficult to cover, as they say. But
sounds like you need a good stage manager.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that sounds like
production manager. Like, hello.
Hey, you over here.
Yeah, I can do that.
You see,
no problem.
In the world of television, for those of you watching at home, the producer or the director can somehow get agitated and angry, and there's a wonderful recording. You've got to hear the BBC Eurovision contest mid 1960s, where the director loses it completely. He's screaming at everybody. Anyway, and I certainly wouldn't do a thing like that. So, for instance, you'd have the very glamorous presenter who's very, very la-di-da, right? For instance, let's talk about Gemma Cooper, BBC trained. She wasn't standing in a feckin' light. You stand in a feckin' light, you silly cow. Now, that's what a person like me would say to I'm just using Gemma Cooper as an example, but she has been presenting in the past.
Do you not have the message, lighting board?
The whole point of a floor manager, is that the floor manager would go to the glamorous television personality and say, "Hello, darling, could you just keep a little bit into the light?" and be very sweet and polite to her, whilst perhaps in the talkback there's sort of an ear that's burning in because of the frustration of the creative genius of the director and the producer. Anyway, that's a little television thing there, TV, darling. And you always call everybody darling, right?
I don't call anybody darling. I'll have to learn that one. I'll have to try.
Well, I'm not going to suggest you would call them darling, but I mean, it's just a way of saying something else like, get that silly cow to bloody well listen to what's going on.
Yeah, I can help you with that. That's nice.
It's a translation device, a floor manager. I'm being very expressive in explaining the function of it, if you want to do that.
But yeah, you definitely want to get Drago Reed as much time as possible because he's mesmerizing. One of the reasons he's mesmerizing is because we both share an ability that allows us to kind of capture people with our voices.
Well, I think the idea is that on the Friday, once we get the bloody lights on and the stage set and projectors and the lighting all working, and we've always had a problem with lights, because really what we need is a full, and we won't go into the stage technical problems. We've got to keep lights to do things. But if they're too far away, they don't light things enough, and then if you don't get proper pictures. And we're doing it. I do the. We don't need to hear about all that stuff. Anyway, what I would really love to do is get this more people coming, and then once we have a particular threshold, we can get a bigger hall, do it really big, and that's with lights. You've got to have lights. You've got to be able to see the feckin' picture.
Yeah.
Then I get frustrated because that's what I've been doing for 30 years. Television.
Yeah, you do really well considering you don't have like a big crew. It's pretty amazing.
Well, a lot of it's down to a key friend, Matthew Williams, who's been a crop circle maker, and so the idea is that he does the sound. It's down to cables which you can't leave on the floor. They have to be fed. Listen, we're not going to talk all that stuff. So, how long have we been running, sweetheart?
So we have been running for just over an hour now. Yes, we're okay to wrap things up if you'd like.
No, I'm fine if that works with you.
Okay, yeah, I'm fine.
I have a little blue sort of message at the top of my your screen, but we'll forget about that.
Okay.
I don't know what that means. Provided I've got pictures, that's all I care about. Right.
Yeah, I don't see any messages on my side, so
I've got something I've got to click OK on, but it's the top.
Oh, that's just because I'm recording. That's all that is.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I'm recording on my end. I wanted to talk to you about London, and I've got clones that are in a lab that's underground Big Ben. So does that make any sense why we'd pick that up on a remote view?
Definitely, absolutely. The structure, another thing you've got to look at when you look at buildings. So for instance, if you look at Rendlesham Forest, there's a BT research centre near Rendlesham Forest, and that's near the RAF Woodbridge, the US Woodbridge, or the Bentwaters site area. Now the basic point about that area is very sandy, right? It's basically low-lying sand stuff. There's stones and stuff in it. But if you have a big structure on the surface, which is made of concrete, and it's very heavy, you have to have something underneath, supporting it. So that BT centre, which is a big hunk of concrete, must have a lot underneath it. And that's been found to be true. And if there's a lot underneath, why do they need a lot underneath? Because maybe it's got connections with everything else. This is based on a thing called the anthropic cosmological principle, right? If you find in your researches, for instance, a tooth, right? And it's a tooth thing, right? Therefore, based on the shape and type of tooth you find, that means you've got to have an animal or an organic breathing animal thing which has a mouth to eat with, right? And then based on that tooth and whatever it is, that must have a jaw that size and this size, and then based on what the tooth, the shape of it, is it going to eat meat or is it going to do this? So therefore you end up developing from that one tooth, you must have a animal that's going to be pretty damn big to eat that. Now, if it's going to be pretty damn big, it's got to have a food supply. So therefore, you've got to have a lot of other things running around, and therefore you have to have immediately paints a huge structure of infrastructure of what's going to have to happen in order for that tooth to be there, right? And that's why the woolly mammoth with seeds in it, which are still fertile and all that, is so important in terms of how we suddenly froze, right? Where is this leading us? So the point is, look at above ground structures, and if they're very heavy and big, such as at the Parliament, the new Parliament building, and if you look at the infrastructure and the size of these massive columns at the tube station, they're not all there to make it look nice, right? So that means that there is an almighty massive base under Parliament with huge infrastructure issues. Now, one of the things that Simon Parkes mentioned, there was a little time when I was poisoned on a plane in Dublin Airport, where I got stuff onto my hands by design, and he knew about that, and it was an attempt to bump me off with slow action poisons. I even similar poisons which were used against Max Spears, and he knew about that, and he sort of mentioned it. Now, what the hell was I saying about the point about it is there was a tube station. And you know that effect that I was talking about when the plane suddenly goes like a. They had issues like that in the tube stations under London, particularly just up the road from Parliament, and that is Holborn Tube Station. Holborn. Now, there's no suspicions here when you have a Holborn Tube Station, which has the longest escalator in the tube system, or it was then, and there's nothing suspicious if you have a major Masonic building beside that, and there's nothing suspicious when you have a group of hotel rooms called the Connaught Rooms, and there's nothing suspicious about the term temple and those sorts of things. Are you laughing at me? And
I am a little bit, yeah. I just like the way you're phrasing it.
So if you look around and see what things are, there's always signatures to tell you. That's what my point is. Yeah. So the point about the tube station at Holborn was that I noticed that people would come through on the tube, and a lot of when people come through and they're coming into the station, they're holding on and they're stiff and they don't want to move around, right?
Yeah.
This was different. And I wasn't the first person to notice this. This is the point. The tube station came in, everybody was frozen.
Right, okay.
And then reanimated.
So it's definitely a temporal disturbance in that location then.
Well, the other little problem was one fine day, and again, we've got a witness to this extremely long, ridiculously long escalator, one day was very short. Okay?
Okay.
Because the fake reality or the reality screening that I mentioned when we flew, over the Irish Sea, just north of the Isle of Man, off the coast of the Lake District going to Fort Belfast, when you have the zones, the screens, the reality management zones, sometimes they go wrong. And then you have major reality errors, such as one of the longest escalators in the tube network suddenly being very short. It shouldn't be like that. And you only notice that when you go through the field. So what happened there was that there was a grey base alien facility abducting tube trains full of humans and doing things with them. Okay, so that was the sort of thing that I worked out.
Yeah.
Simon Parkes agreed with that. So what then happened, there was, and this is on one of my lectures, there was a huge power outage. There was an almighty energy weapon used, and all the cables in the ground around Holborn Tube Station went on fire all underground. So what happened was somebody took out that grey base. Okay? The greys were there and the reptilians were running it. And Simon Parkes mentioned this, and he put these little greys, he always get whatever. So this was an example of, on the tube network, not too far away from Parliament, where there's a big fat ET base. There's also another guy called Steve Wilshire. And Matthew Williams was a friend of Matthew Williams because Matthew knew this guy's son who was a circle maker. And he had noticed this huge
I'm getting a lot of interference. I'm literally getting like police nearby. I'm getting interference coming in on my right, on my left ear. This is a really hot topic.
Yeah. So
yeah.
What happened was there was a big fat ET base on the north shore of the Thames, and it's interesting that Boris Johnson wanted to put a civil airport in the middle of the River Thames, just where the ET base was, and this goes back into the 50s, where people were seeing stuff coming and going all over the bloody place, and there's major UFO events on the south shore of the Thames estuary in Kent. So there's all these things. So when you're talking about something happening at Parliament, and for instance, we understand GCHQ has got a matra. Is that the correct pronunciation of that?
I'm not too sure about the matra. I've not done any research into that. Yeah.
The precog, and the point is, we've also heard that in Pine Gap in Australia.
I wanted to talk to you about Pine Gap. That was going to be my next one, because there is a facility there where I've got probably about 10 clones. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, why don't you tell us about that? In other words, look at what's going on. If you notice something which is odd, it is odd. So pay attention. Something's wrong. Okay. Yeah. So when you notice these errors, for instance, that was one of the ways they could find the SR-71 stealth bomber. Is that the right number for it? The stealth bombers?
Not too sure.
That could be the wrong name. The SR-71 could be the big thing with two big jets on it. Stupid thing with two. But anyway, that when it changed direction on radar, you'd see the ping when it changed direction. And if you were looking at your radar very carefully, you'd say, there's a stealth aircraft there. And then if you see another little ping, and then you can plot a vector, and then you can... The other thing was that if you have a stealth aircraft, that means you don't fly them at rifle shooting height above trees so that the local militia in Yugoslavia can shoot the bloody things down with a bloody 303 rifle. Not a good use of a stealth aircraft, flying them over the heads of people who can go bang. Washington didn't work that one out. Yeah. That's another thing.
So Australia, I did a year in Australia as a working holiday, and I flew into Brisbane. I was doing conservation volunteers, so I was kind of traveling, but I intended to go north. But then all of a sudden, I was going south. My mind had been changed, and I didn't know why it had been changed. I just knew I was meant to go to Sydney. And so I spent a year out there. I did camper bunny and everything. And then once I started to look into the clones this year with Sean Bond, there's a video on his channel, maybe on my channel as well, on Sonic League. And we were doing grid work mapping. We were tuning in. I do a lot of clone mapping. So we're tuning into where the clones are. And I wanted him to revisit particular places in Australia where there were meatworks. This is going to sound really weird, but there's something going on. So as part of my conservation volunteers, I stayed opposite an abattoir. Something happened in the night, and I don't know what happened, but I get a lot of memories about being upside down and things like that. Really, really odd. So I wanted him to have a look at that. And so we were looking at a few places, but then we came into Pine Gap. And the ACIO are allegedly based from Pine Gap. It's on their website. So it seems to be like a joint facility of different agencies working out of Pine Gap. And when we both tuned in, the first thing I noticed was that there were cloning like stasis pods. There were lots of stasis pods with ETs in them. We also got that there was off-world portals there, and there was something about my DNA is very overpowered, it's very healing, so I used my clones as medics, allegedly, for ETs coming in and off the planet. So, and I say allegedly because I can't confirm that to be true. I know how it feels, and I know what I see in my mind, and I know what other people have verified of what I've seen. And I generally get what I'm receiving checked by at least 3 other people in our community. That's what I do. And, and doing that, it verifies all of us at the same time. So, and then I checked that with Christy Campbell, and we kind of felt like there was other things going on there. So I wondered what you knew about Pine Gap in Australia and what
Well, the only thing
experiences
I've
you
heard
have.
is that what you're talking about is there, and
Yeah,
that a lot of people have the thing about Pine Gap is some people say that Marduk and things are there, and I'm not entirely sure about that, but I
yeah,
think it's worth listening to what people are saying, because again, even when somebody is inventing a fraudulent story, they often use fragments of a real story to create the fraudulent story.
okay,
And it's also a situation where maybe somebody's subconscious is picking up on something and they slip it into their speech as such.
yeah.
I'm actually feeling a bit sort of ooh, anyway.
Yeah, we're getting quite a bit of targeting coming in on this.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's the point. For instance, what we've just described. I had somebody here recently, and being within about 2 meters of them, bloody hell, it's just a whoosh.
Yeah.
And that was somebody who was able to see for instance, the trolls. I actually just put a caption up saying trolls on
Yeah.
YouTube, just said trolls. And I think I got about 10,000 hits on that, with a whole lot of people yelling and screaming at each other. But it was just over the fact I just put trolls. There was nothing else
Yeah.
there.
It's insane.
But that's one of the signatures about when somebody shoots, they give away their position.
Yeah.
And
It's
when
interesting.
people or things give away their position, you
Mm.
have a target. And there's a book by Tom Bearden, and it's on this. It's about scalar energetics, and the energetics of the physics that we really should be using.
Mm.
And it's a thing called the phase conjugate time reversed wave. Right? What did I just say?
I couldn't repeat that. Please say that again. Yeah.
Now the point about phase conjugate is when two waves match each other exactly. They're conjugate. They're together, right? This thing about the sun thing, you got two waves and they're not conjugate. They're moving out of sync, and
Yeah.
that's when they're affecting each other. Well, the phase conjugate of the time reversed wave
Mm.
is somebody sends an energy packet to you. It could be a bullet, which would be very nasty to receive, or it could be an energy wave, or it could be a radar ping, and they've picked you up, right? That's how the things work. You can send a packet of information or energy down the exact wave in reverse time as that wave come to you, that whatever it is, and you can send that pulse back to where it came from. So that's what happened with Chernobyl. There's a huge, what they call Tesla antenna, and this is in abandoned engineering, where they actually show you this massive Tesla antenna. It's not a Tesla antenna. It was used for it was used for scalar weather warfare. So it's a massive antenna, and that was being powered by the Chernobyl power station. Somebody used the principle of a phase conjugate time reverse wave to send an interference pulse back down that wave. Now, they didn't know where the hell this was. They didn't know. They just sent it. So it goes back to the origins as space has had a pathway. You know, somebody's had to come down the road to do something, so they know which road you've gone. And in British Telecom, we would call it a call trace. Somebody makes a phone call, you can hit call trace, and the entire path that phone call came in is stopped, so nothing can change it, right? So what happened was that then put energy into the antenna. A transmission antenna wants to transmit energy out, but when you suddenly are pushing energy back in, that goes back to the place where it got all its power from, and that was the Chernobyl power station. And that makes it suddenly get very hot. And it got very hot and very bothered. And that's called a standing wave ratio. anybody who's a radio ham or anything like that, you mustn't get your standing wave ratio into the red. Otherwise, you're going to find that your transmitters are going to blow up. But it also means that you're not actually effectively transmitting. But that's the kind of thing you can do. Somebody interferes with you. Somebody gives you a voice to skull. And that's what I felt that Solaris Blue Raven, she's still around, isn't she? Solaris Blue Raven.
Oh, I'm not familiar. No.
Well, Solaris Blue Raven is what I'd call old school TIs from the 15 years ago.
Yeah.
She was being targeted by a certain music band who had got access to this technology, and just for the hell of it, they'd play with it and caused her a lot of problems. She was able to get back to the source of what was causing her this terrible disturbance.
Yeah.
And give them a headache. And they don't like it.
No, I mean, I've got my own experiences as a targeted individual. I'm in the TIRAP program. So before the TIRAP program started, there wasn't anything going on, basically. So I'm one of the originals that were getting targeted. Allegedly for information that I'm supposed to have. I don't know what that information is, but apparently I needed to be cloaked for a long time. So, and that's just coming out now. So, yeah, but I still have active targeting.
So what is the TIRAP program?
So it's called Targeted Individual Research Advanced Project, and it's listed in my files with the ACIO. So it's the very first original targeting program. So it started in the 1950s, I guess. I'm not too sure about that, but it means that I've been handled for a very long time. My entire life has been handled to the point that it's quite comfortable now. I didn't realize I was targeted until quite recently, maybe in the last 18 months. I was at a show in York. I do mind, body, spirit events, but I was actually camping and I was in a tent. But that day, I'd been doing some quantum healing with a friend who's quite advanced, and we'd opened something up. And I went back to my tent, and then I started to get all this voices coming in, really aggressive men's voices coming in. I got scenes playing in my mind that were really kind of negative. And that was my first kind of like voice to skull. And then about 6 months later or so, I was sitting outside my house here. I live in a close, so, it's quite quiet. And across from me is a street lamp. And I'm right by the River Mersey. So there's massive seagulls. They're not small, they're enormous. And they were flocking in my road. And then one of them smacked into something that was cloaked above the street lamp. Right? Psychically, I could see it was like a square box. The seagull shook itself off. They were all kind of really upset by it, and it flew around it. And this is above a street lamp. There was nothing there. And that's when I realized, okay, I'm definitely targeted. I don't sleep at night because I get a lot of targeting in the bones. I get so uncomfortable. I kind of sleep really intermittently. I know Drago reads on a similar targeting pattern because we've spoken about it. So, but I'm at that point now where my life is quite comfortable because I've just come to terms with it, because I know that I'm alive. And one of the reasons I'm alive is because I've got all these clones. So the ACIO believed that I made a deal with Kruger to enter into the cloning program so that I would be hidden and protected. And just like Voldemort in Harry Potter, where he split his soul to make all those Horcruxes, and you had to kill each one before you could get to him. That's a bit what it's like to be a clone template. Yeah, so I'm the original, and you'd have to kill millions of clones to put me out, kind of thing. And that's not an invitation to anybody.
Oh, yes. Be careful.
Right, and I do not have any desires to unalive myself in any way, right? And we're on the 27th of August, 2025. So because my DNA is what it is, I've got Time Lord DNA, I've got Venusian, Lyran, Andromedan, Palladian. I've got a real mixing pot there. And I'm in the program. So, yeah. So it is what it is. I've come to terms with it now.
Do you think there's a major Pleiadian base not too far from Chester?
Well, I used to work in construction until December, and I was based on a nuclear facility near Chester. And I'm not too sure about Palladian space, but the Zeta Greys are very dominant on that nuclear base. And I know that because they're running experiments on me all the time. And I've had to confirm with Audrey Walters that every nuclear facility around the world has a big ET ship over it, cloaked, just in case something like another Chernobyl was going to happen. That ship is there to like intersect it. For Palladium base, not too sure. I've not thought about that. I'll have to ask
I'm
them.
thinking about the headquarters of Subaru Cars.
Okay.
Is in that region, North Wales.
Yeah, I'll have a look at that.
I think the boundary of North Wales, I mean...
it's the aerospace, the British aerospace. Because at one point, aerospace owned the shipping yard where I am. So where you're talking about, there's an aerospace base not far from there. So there's definitely something going on at that British aerospace, I think. That's what I was tuning into last week. But it could be the facility you're talking about. But it felt nefarious, so it didn't feel like good Palladians. I generally work with Soma Arar, and she channels Ashtar Command, which is a collective. And
is that actually real? I find that so corny. It's corny. You know?
I mean, they're very love and light, obviously, because it's very supportive messages coming through. But I do believe they're real. I've had a lot of information come through her channelings that have been absolutely spot on. I'm not joking. I first connected with Soma, I think nearly a year ago now, when she's on Typical Skeptic, and she channeled through things about me that she couldn't have known. Things about my character, things that I like to do that nobody else knew. She knew, and it had come from the Palladians.
Keep talking. I'm going to make a cup of tea. I'm listening.
Okay. But let's just pause for a moment, shall we? Have a break?
Well, we could.
Yeah.
Julia Anchorhaven. This is a promo and an open discussion we've had. This is part 2, and one of the things. This is for the Bases 2025 conference in December 12th, 13th, and 14th on the SSP Nachtwaffen TIs, and bringing over a number, about 5 Americans involved with this, and you have been involved with one of these Americans called Draco Reed, and I last saw them at the second Full Disclosure Now conference, and I've got this just to sort of I've got the hat, I've been there, I've got the T-shirt, and that's the Full Disclosure. Oh God.
Yeah, perfect.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, Full Disclosure Now, and with the Solar Bee on it, although you can't really see that logo properly. Anyway,
no.
That's Brian Singh. Is that the correct way he says it?
Yeah.
And we get that out of the way because we've got a UFO book here.
Yeah.
See, UFO book. The point about this UFO book, it's a lot of the early days of UFOs, and of course it will mention Donald Kehoe, and it's a lot of the classics and the major parts of the UFO thing. Donald Kehoe is a German secret intelligence asset. Therefore, he was in control of the whole narrative at the fundamental writing books and magazine levels and articles of steering what they wanted, what the Nachtwaffen, what the German intelligence. These are fundamental, deep German intelligence, not your sort of MI5 German intelligence level. And so from the word go, in terms of what was going on in the UFO thing, with the thing going over Washington and all the UFO stuff, that they keep steering you to 1947. And one of the reasons they steer you to 1947 is that's when the creation of the CIA happened. And the CIA, Central Intelligence Agency, is a nomenclature, a naming logic, a naming system, which is used in the Austro-Hungarian Empire of the 1800s. So this pushes, again, these are the signatures you've got to look for. You know, when you've got the Central Intelligence Agency, whereas you have the federal FBI, you have the national, which is the NSA, but the central one, and that's had George Bush as its head. George Bush is a key DVD asset, the Bush family, and they were in Project Paperclip. The Bushes were in Project Paperclip, yeah, and the Bushes financed Hitler through a bank in New York. So this is all to do with that realm of empire into Europe in the since the 1700s, and this is the point
Yeah.
about where these signatures are pointing us. So you've got to look at these signatures, right? Okay.
So Project Paperclip for me, I was a teenage scientist based in Sedona, Dom. That's what's in my ACIO files. I was working on projects that were to create DMT, naturally create this DMT so it could be weaponized, but also
What is
used as
CMT?
a DMT. Oh, I don't know. I'll have to check what that is. But that's the we produce it when we sleep, when we dream, and it's the drug. What's it called? Sorry, the dimethyltryptamine. Dimethyltryptamine, a psychedelic drug.
Therefore,
Yeah, so,
that's why they're disturbing our sleep, so we don't produce that. Is that right?
Well, I naturally produce it now on like huge amounts because there was a lab disaster. And in this lab disaster, they say that I was blinded and I was quite disfigured in a way. So they grafted Lyran DNA and Lyran skin grafts and things like that. But they believe that I can naturally produce this DMT. And you know what? Me and Drago, we both do kind of meditation work. He does quantum healing hypnosis, putting people under. I do deep meditation journeys with my people. So the sound of our voice emits waves to make people
okay,
very
you said
relaxed.
with your people, do you do healing in some way or therapy?
Yeah, so I'm a holistic therapist. I'm a Reiki master teacher. I teach lots of different things. I have ladies groups online. I do retreats, and I teach courses and things like that. So yeah. So, but it all kind of adds in. But as a super soldier, that DMT ability would be literally to use your voice, to use your tones, to take out the enemy, basically. So that's why it was used. That's why it was being developed. Instead of healing, it was being developed more for warfare.
So would that mean that if you triggered certain vocal tones, it would make people afraid, or it would make them go to sleep, or
it probably make them go to sleep. So I've not explored it too much, to be honest. But I do have people that say to me, oh, I fall asleep every time in your meditations and things like that. So it did resonate with me when I was told that's an ability I should have. And I thought, okay, so I still need to explore it a bit more. Obviously, I don't want to use that for anything other than good. Making people nice and relaxed and healing it.
Well, I have to say that when I listen to Kim Guggen, which I do just to find out what she's saying, I can't get totally through it without falling asleep.
Okay, perhaps there's similar ability, or just a nice relaxed tone frequency. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that was my Project Paperclip stuff that's been documented. I was a young scientist, so. But in the files, it basically says I was born in the 1920s. So there's multiple versions of me because this body allegedly born in 1975.
You've mentioned the ACIO, and you've mentioned what's her name?
Jessica Ariel Morocco.
Jessica Ariel Morocco, and I've had some chats with her. Explain what that is. And where would you see that? And I've heard other people refer to their ACIO files.
Yeah, so the ACIO is the Advanced Contact Intelligence Organization, and they have divisions all over the planet. They have been around a lot longer than I reckon, that they say they have. So they're basically, they're a spy corporation is how I see it. The reason I contacted them was because Brian Singh had an interview with them, and they started to talk about things about time travel. And as I was listening to it, they were talking about a time travel crystal, and I got a vision of myself 7 years old holding a crystal in my hand like a necklace. And as soon as I looked at it, it turned into a kaleidoscope, and I knew that I was in that same project, which is Project Ibis. So then I thought, okay, yeah.
James Casbolt mentioned a lot about Project Ibis.
Yeah, but when James Casbolt was on Typical Skeptic, he says he doesn't have any memories. And yeah, we were mind wiped a lot after missions and things, but I don't understand why
that was a big deal with James. Yeah. He's really still damaged a lot.
Yeah.
And with Bob, he's got a good friend in Bob, and they're local in Cornwall. So
yeah, it could just be his abilities are different to a lot of people's abilities. A lot of people coming forward now are really gifted psychic mediums, psionic soldiers, and things like that. So so we're breaking through the programming. We're breaking through that MK Ultra. We're breaking through memory blocks and veils that have been
Could
placed.
you explain what psionics means? I've had that. This is a word that one of the buzzwords which are being used a lot by you guys.
Yeah, so it's a military term for using psychic abilities. Yeah, so it's like actively using them in combat, or I don't know, for doing things. So rather than just being a psychic and receiving messages, you're actively doing. So it's an action word, the psionics. That's how I see it personally. Yeah.
Okay, continue. This is your show.
No,
we are promoting the
Bases.
The Bases 2025 conference on the 12th, 13th, and 14th of December, and tickets will be on sale via basestv.org. All the information about the conference, where to get the tickets. I'm having a problem. I've tried to use Ticket Quarter, and they're a disaster.
Okay.
And you register with them, and I've talked to other people who got some feedback on that. So can you do Eventbrite?
Yeah, you can do Eventbrite or Ticket Tailor. I use Bookwhen for my things, but my things are not as big. So yeah. So there's other services out there.
What's that?
It's bookwen.com. Yeah, so that's just a booking site that I use because I have a lot of small events, so it just shows a big calendar of events for me. But most people use Eventbrite because it has good publicity on it, or Ticket Tailor.
Yeah, Ticket Tailor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so I have a connection to Drago Reed. That's why we're talking about this. So when he comes to the UK, I'm really looking forward to seeing him in person for the first time. So I've connected with him on Zoom and things like that. Whenever I get visions and downloads and recall, I do let him know, but he's on his own separate journey of discovery. So he does he's like 10 years ahead of me, basically, in his recall. He's been working with Dr. Amir, who's coming to the conference. He's been working with Ileana Elkar, the Star Traveler, and she's created books about...
Explain her. That's a long, complicated name there. What's her name?
Yeah, Ileana the Star Traveler, but her soul name is Elkar. Yeah.
Right.
So she's actually published books which are they're fiction style, but they're based on Drago Reed's alters, Commander Merrick, and he's got his own ship. And there's 3 alters, clones of him on that ship. Now, when I was listening to them talking about this ship recently, it's an actual ship. This is not fiction. It's an actual ship because I connected.
See, this is where I have to sort of put my aggressive nature on. I mean, you're just talking a whole lot of hooey here, mentioning these things. How can anybody take you seriously, for God's sake?
Well, they can go and have a look and do their own research and use their own discernment. That's absolutely fine. Yeah, but I know it's a real ship because I connected into it and it attacked me. So, but I had a really bad psychic attack.
Explain.
No, this one is a bit too far gone, I think, for you. I know, because
I'm putting my word bit in.
Okay.
It means, well, Miles did say.
Yeah, Miles did say he was going to be nice.
Yeah. So
So Drago's basically he's working with really advanced remote viewers.
So that was my bit of dry humor there. Do I have to explain?
Oh, was that humor? Yes, you mean. Sorry, I don't always get people's humor because I'm very literal.
We mentioned that at part 1, by the way, just in case.
I'm very literal. Apparently, that's very Andromeda.
Yeah, I would come. Being from Belfast, we have different ways of saying the same thing, and depending on the tone of the voice when you say it. And that's part of the thing about the police squad.
Yeah.
Would you be able to understand the humour in police squad?
I get police squad, yeah.
You do? Well, have you seen the new police squad with Pamela Anderson? You've got.
Oh yes.
You've got to watch it all the way through.
I'm going to watch it. Yes.
The star of the film is what's his name, Yankovic.
Liam Neeson.
No, he's just the actor who plays things for the first hour and a half to 2 hours. Okay. It's after the star of the whole show is what's his name, Yankovic. He's obviously a star. That's why I'm remembering his name. You've got to wait until all those stupid names go up the screen.
You're talking about Al.
And the other thing is that you've got a really excellent singer. It's a superb singing, brilliant voice called Liam Neeson or something, and he's singing in the studio. It's amazing. You really got to watch
Ali
that.
Yankovic is in it.
Yeah,
so that's
it.
Weird Al, isn't it? Weird Al.
It's all about him, and he's you have a warm up act. The movie and Pamela Anderson and all that sort of stuff's a warm up act. And then you have all these title things, and everybody's worked in it and walked past the door and said hi. They're all their names. Then you have the big show. The main event is your man Yankovic.
Weird Al. He was massive in the 80s. He was really funny.
He was?
Yeah.
Bloody hell. Well, that's why he's there. He's on the movie. You got to watch the whole thing right to when he's...
Because instead of the Michael Jackson song Beat It, he did a song called Eat It. That's all I remember.
God.
Anyway.
And, yeah, well, as they say, anyway...
So, would you like to talk about Nagwaffin, Dark Fleet?
Yep, absolutely. Okay. Particularly pronouncing it correctly.
Yeah.
Okay, we're now going to talk about Nachtwaffen. It's the Dark Fleet, or somebody calls it the Dark Watch.
Because I think the direct translation is a bit different, yeah.
Basically, a lot of Germans in space with groovy uniforms. Yes.
So I am on a ship. I'm a scientist, super soldier geneticist. I'm on the same ship that was governed by David Purcell, who's in our community, and Brian Seng is also noted to be a pilot on that ship. Although I only have 1 or 2 memories of Brian, and it wasn't that pilot version. It was 2 different clones. So a lot of my memories are isolated to labs. The most recent recall I had in the last month was me holding a severed arm. And then recently I connected with Susan Long. So do you know Susan?
Susan is wonderful, and Susan can sing very well with Laura Eisenhower. And I was there when they were doing it. It was great.
Amazing. So Susan's also known as the Phoenix. Jean Grey is based on her from the X-Men. And in Dark Fleet, she was a soldier or a disciplinarian cop or whatever. But I had a recent memory of her come forward, whereas I've never really allowed myself to look. So these things scare me. So that's why I don't explore these active memories. But she was on Typical Skeptic podcast recently with David Purcell. And I started to get a memory come forward as I was watching the show, where I'm a moderator, so I watch it every day. And I saw that I was in my lab and Susan was sitting on a bench in front of me and I was repairing her right shoulder. Like she'd been in some kind of fight and I was repairing it. But there was Draco guards there, which were generally there for me, not for her. And the Draco guards, or the Dracos, didn't want me to repair her, but it was overruled by David Purcell, his aspect, who said that, she works for us, you need to repair her. So that's the latest recall that's come in. It was very clear as well.
So hold on here. When you say repair, it's not exactly a term that you'd go to your local doctor and say,
no.
Hello, doctor, I would like you to repair me.
Yeah.
So and that was something you'd attribute to sort of, well, the car's got bumped and could you put a new...
Okay, yeah. So as a geneticist, I wasn't really healing people. I was putting people together and creating clones, creating
What I'm
different
saying
versions.
is, obliquely, was she cyborg?
That's where I'm getting to. She wasn't cyborg, but she was augmented. So she wasn't full cyborg.
That's what the Ministry of Defence are talking about. Have you seen the Ministry of Defence document on augmented humans?
No, I haven't.
Well, that's on their website.
Yeah.
This is the whole cyborg thing, from the ape, that 1960s graphic where you have the apes and and you come men. Well, they're talking about enhanced brains stuff.
Yeah.
You're talking cyborgs, and that is...
Yeah, I mean, as super soldiers, we generally have the neural link on the left side skull. We have implanted left eye, which links in, which allows us to link into the partner that we're placed with. There's a battery pack on the right side body under the liver that allows you to kind of go into berserker mode. That's as far as I've got with my research into that.
Into what mode?
Personally, berserker, as in rage, full-on rage.
Oh, right. Why do you need a battery to do that?
Because it's powering up to great heights, so you can go faster, jump further, and battle longer. Yeah, so I don't understand how that works. This is just what I'm discovering and verifying with others in the community. Yeah. So that's as far as I've got with that, really.
So where would you suggest that we advertise the conference? Because you're very kindly doing the artwork for it. Where do you think? I think you're doing the art. Yeah.
Sorry, there's a little like yeah.
But where would you suggest that we advertise or put things out so that we get to the people we need to get?
Most people use Facebook events so that you can easily tag it in. We use a lot of groups on Facebook, which like cosmic community groups and disclosure groups on Facebook as well. There's lots of podcasts that you can tie in with to do promotions with as well. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm Bases TV now.
Yeah.
I've got so many friends on my personal thing. Thousands, 5,000. I keep on having to weed them out. Oh, I don't like you anymore.
Yeah. I don't keep lots of friends on my Facebook. I actually cleared it out last year because I was worried they were going to get targeted. So when you go onto my Facebook now, I've only got people within the disclosure community because I know they won't mind. So I don't have like my personal.
Are you sure about that? By the way, this is just telling people that I was in Tampa. This is the captain's mug, and there it is. I was in Tampa.
Awesome.
I bought that at Tampa Airport.
Did you notice any time distortions when you were in Tampa? You might
we had
a
lot of them. On the way back, my phone, when you're abroad, you have the local time, and you have your time at home, right?
Yeah.
When I walked into the British Airways plane, you should always fly British Airways. It's the world's favorite airline. Okay? And immediately the phone went back to UK time. Now, it shouldn't have done that because I was still in Tampa. But the plane thought it was still at London Gatwick. So we couldn't take off because the plane's inertial guidance system and its navigation system was convinced it was still at London Gatwick. So they couldn't plot a flight to London Gatwick because the plane was still there. Yeah. But my phone should not have switched back to London Gatwick, to London time. And the other thing was that on the little map you get on the back of the seats, it was also, we were also sitting at minus 75 meters below sea level.
Right.
Now the thing about this is when the bulge of the Earth's equator, it's wider. Earth is wider at the equator than it is at the pole. So we have a slight sort of flat top and bottom, right? So way up in the UK, I'm postulating that the distance to the center of the Earth and therefore ground level would have been lower than it is at the bulge of the Earth's circumference, because we're getting further down towards the equator, and that would mean if the plane thought it was in London Gatwick, it would be lower down, and that would explain why sitting at the runway in Tampa, it's because it thought it was in the UK, it would not have been as high up as it was. Do you see what I mean? Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now, our flight was delayed 45 minutes because of that, because we had to reset the whole navigation system.
It definitely makes me think of targeting from satellite handlers, but because you were talking about that, I got an image of an undersea base off the coast of Tampa, Florida, that might have been monitoring you. So...
Well, it was interesting once we got in the plane, and I actually had a chat with the air stewardess about this. What do you call them? They're not air stewardesses anymore.
You can call them an air stewardess.
Well, a bloody air stewardess, right? And and she said, yeah, you need to we let you get into the pilot. You can talk to the pilot. So I was explaining to the about the movement of the magnetic poles, and that means that where we are in the mid-Atlantic, particularly, you're going to be affected by a lot more radiation, and that's going to affect your navigation systems.
Yeah.
And eventually, before we landed back in London, the stewardess said that the pilot knows about the migration of the North and South Poles. Because I was saying, if you're going to fly these planes, you can't rely on you've got to use dead reckoning, old-fashioned. If you want to know where the hell you are, because if you don't know where you're going, you can get lost very quickly in a plane.
Yeah.
If you don't know which way's up and which way's east-west, you can very, very quickly. Anyway, that's my input to what your question was. So continue.
I'm doing an event at the end of September, which is at the Concorde Centre in Manchester, where they keep the Concorde. And we're doing a Mind, Body, Spirit further, and you get to actually go on the Concorde and have a look around. I did it last year, so that was quite interesting. So it's retired, the plane now.
So explain what your event is and how do people get to it?
So it's a white light Mind, Body, Spirit event. You can go to whitelightevents.com, I think, or .co.uk. So it's just a 2-day Mind, Body, Spirit fair. I think it is the last weekend in September. I might be wrong on that.
Listen. Nobody's listening. It's just generally speaking, it's a good idea if you know when your own event is.
It's not my event. I'm just exhibiting.
Oh, it's not your event.
No, I'm not personally. I'm just an exhibitor. I'm just a card reader. Yeah, so I'll probably do a talk. I generally get to do talks.
But if you're inviting people to go to this event, knowing when it is a good idea.
Well, I wasn't.
I mean, am I stressing you out on this?
You're right. You're always right.
I'm not always right. If I'm going to be wrong, I'll be dead wrong. There's me pointing my finger. Yeah. Dead wrong. Dead.
Okay.
Not dead on. Dead wrong.
I wasn't expecting to talk about Mind, Body, Spirit first. Coming on here with you, but I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you. I can't find the website now, but anyone can go to my Facebook, my Instagram, or my YouTube to learn more about my upcoming events on mybookwen.com/Anchorhaven or anchorhaven.co.uk.
Could you say that faster? Because I was able to hear it properly.
It's not for you, and it's on the screen. My website.
On the screen. Well, I can show you can. Right. I've got Sandra DeRoy coming here with 4 kittens and a mummy pussycat.
And what are you doing with these kittens?
That's not a coincidence either. So what further things do you want to say?
I was just interested to get your point of view on some of my experiences. So it's been really helpful for me. Thank you. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention before we finish?
Well, I think that's enough for now, or as we say more properly in Northern Ireland, that's enough for now.
Yeah.
But thank you very much. I think it's wonderful that you're a bright, breezy, very articulate person, and you're in this country. And I want the likes of yourself to come to the conference so we can all the community can meet and greet literally, and that's why when I do a conference and somebody can't come, I try to have them do it as a presentation thing. So there's Maria, there's one with Selena Stenberg, and she's done a very, very high-powered 3-hour presentation. It's in 2 parts on keys. She noticed that when she was here, she noticed certain crop circle designs were key to what she had been experiencing. And this is the whole point of the crop circle designs. There's very highly specified designs because they want to find out who notices things about them. So that's the key thing about the crop circles, is that there's people will see something in there that others don't. And that's what they're looking for. It's a psyop. And we've had only 2 or 3 here this year. So a lot of people are but the point is that they're made by people because there are issues which are involving multidimensional physics and gateways and code keys. A little bit what this is. So that's that's all available on basestv.com. All the Bases material is being loaded up to basestv.com. So it's a subscription of about $5 or a month or something, and that the whole archive is there. There are bits scattered on YouTube which are difficult to find. I still use a YouTube site to put the odd thing on. The most important one was a guy called Anthony Zender.
Yeah.
Have you seen him or?
I am familiar. We've not connected personally, but I know he was in Dark Fleet with me. I have one memory. I've not spoken to him about it yet, so I can't really share. And
And the critical thing is that there were two displays at the conference. A black helicopter was seen flying. Well, it wasn't seen. It flew very close over the beach with the marquee where they have the drinks and the meal at the end of each day. And there was another one of an Israeli flag flying with a very small plane and a very long distance than normal between the alleged flag and the alleged plane. Anthony Zender was saying that was a projection from a TR series craft. We're now way up in the high numbers with the so-called TR3B is 1971.
Like
TR6 and 7 and whatever. And the point is he was alerting that they're going to use this kind of projection technology to fool us. And with this Atlantic Atlas craft, so-called craft, I have to say that John Leonard Wolson's done a very good AI report on that. And he's very definitely saying this is a craft based on radar imagery and signatures of reflections and regular features which produce an artificial object. So we'll have to see, but that's going to be 100 days from now, and that's before the conference. So we'll have to see if we get that far.
Yeah, I mean, it's very exciting for the Americans to come over. There's people like Penny Bradley. She's got so much verified memory, and it's amazing. I actually passed out when she was talking in the American conference. I was watching on the live stream. Something she was saying triggered something, and I passed out. It happened when Drago Reed was also talking as well. So my mind had a bit of a blip, or it was something that I wasn't meant to know. But yeah, very exciting that they're coming in. So for people who are trying to get their recall back, or they're drawn to this topic of the super soldiers secret space program, or just the extraordinary, it's listening and talking to people who are like-minded that really does help bring back the memories. So I've not had any proper regressions or anything like that, but my memories have started to come back because I've committed to doing meditation every day. I've been, watching podcasts that I'm drawn to. I've been connecting with people in the community. Sean Bond and I did a very public live stream last week where we were doing a vision quest. And in doing that, we actually went back into a memory that had been locked away, and it was me at Montauk. And we healed an altar, and I integrated it from Montauk. We did a big collective healing, because we were able to tune into my experience there.
Well, on that subject, Bob Osborne has got the information how Aleister Crowley was in Zener using two of the ley lines, which intermixed at Zener, and that was connected with Montauk.
Yeah. So I did make a discovery in that session, because I was, asked to go back to it, just a keystone memory. So I went back to 8 years old, found myself in that shipping container near me, shipping yard. We were queuing up to go into a shipping container, and inside I could see that there was portal technology. And we're talking in 1984, 1985 here. And they had advanced portal technology in a shipping container. I saw it clearly. I went through in the memory, and I was in Montauk. I was in the room where there was cages of people. So I knew it was Montauk because I could feel it. I could smell it. I was in the memory. So, but we did this in a very, obviously this is not for everybody. We did this in a very relaxed, loving, controlled way. I was working with Sean Bond, who is kind of a master psionic.
Well, we're going to have Sean in the summer, maybe. The summer is a bit of a difficult time because it's can be very hot. We've had a very hot summer here, and
he's very supportive in that kind of work, helping you bring those memories forward. So I felt really supported, protected the whole time, and that's live on his channel, Psionic League, on YouTube. But if anyone wants to go onto my channel on YouTube, it's Anchorhaven, which is always one word, and I've got a full disclosure diary, which is me personally talking about my recent experiences. I've got a galactic support series with David Purcell. We've done 8 or 9 episodes now, talking about Dark Fleet, talking about Kruger, talking about super soldiers and things like that. And we did an episode with Susan Long recently, which was brilliant, and hopefully we'll get more people coming in now that we're making those connections. And the conference in July was a big part of that for David Purcell, because he's only come out in the last 2 years with these memories and experiences, but he had quite a high authority position because he was kind of like running a ship in Dark Fleet. So
could you give that name again, please?
Dark Fleet, the Nakwaffin?
No, the name of the individual.
Oh, David Purcell. Yeah.
Purcell.
David Purcell.
Is he English or what? Or?
He's American. He lives, in America, in Pennsylvania. So
I missed that.
Quite a few episodes.
What day was that? Was he a member of the public or what?
No, he was on the SSP panel. He's got round glasses.
Right.
Yeah. He's got more recall than most people. A lot of recall. He's like an ET emissary in a way. So he's always talking to ETs. He's talking to the Sasquatch as well, and things like that. So we do like a weekly session when we can. Yeah.
I'm going to ask you an opinion. I'm going to say the man with the periwinkle eyes.
Okay, yeah. John Whitberg.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Very highly regarded in the community. And I don't know him personally.
Yeah.
I've not properly read the books. I did start the books. I was listening to like an audio version that I found on YouTube. The books are available for free as well. Anybody can read his books.
Yes.
And I know a lot of people really think his information is
And there are other
top-notch.
titles to his videos. Let the People Sing. Is that another one?
I'm not too sure, I need to do a bit more research into him. I'm not quite ready, because I know some of it I will resonate with and it'll spark recall.
I have to sort of be careful, because I need to know, is this an imaginative fictional book?
No,
or
it's put in fiction style, but it's based on his alter's real experiences. That's as much as I know.
Yeah, that's why I asked the question.
Yeah.
And there was another one there I was going to ask, but I've forgotten. So maybe we could wind it up there, and I'll get this edited.
Yeah,
okay.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
I've
never done an interview so long.
Appreciate meeting you. It's great. And it's great because I want to push this into people on this world. I mean, a lot of the James Casbolts, a lot of the Dave Marrows, and a lot of the people that we first start. See, the point about it is you got Barry King talking about making these Germans doing this stuff, and then bringing it over and making aliens in British bases. Yeah. And I have a different source completely, where we were making generated life forms for the lunar base.
Right.
And that's a completely different angle, different source. And
I think there's a lot of projects going on simultaneously.
Yeah.
So I can only speak to my clone hybrid type projects and things like that I'm starting to become aware of. But yeah, there's a lot of information that's coming forward for me. And Drago Reed as well, and Brian Sen, because we're all linked. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as I say, with full disclosure, you can't be half wet.
Yeah.
Once the disclosure is happening, and I am very critical of this so-called UAP stuff going on in Washington, because it's all controlled by the people like the books written in 1947, which is highlighted in this great book here. It's by Garrett M. Graff, and I bought this in Glastonbury. So there's some very good books in Glastonbury. And again, there's another one here by Transhumanism, by Dr. Joseph Farrell and Dr. Scott D. DeHart. So that's new stuff, and you can see more stuff on that with the way it's held anyway.
Yeah, that
There's
looks great.
it's a lot to happen, a lot to get out, and I'd love to maybe. I've said enough. Okay, that's it for now. I'll call this. This will be in the Bases TI series, which I think I don't know what bloody number it is. I have no clue about these things. I just edit them. Okay, that's it for now, and thank you very much. See you next time on basestv.com. But get your tickets and ticket information is basestv.org. And the old thebasesproject.org site is still there, but it's sort of ticking over. And thank you very much for being here.